Welcome to the final panel of the day. Engage your 360-degree fans. In many ways, Read Me Dem saved the best for last. TV fans are all around us, and it's up to us to tap them wherever they are through the right mix of creative digital formats and digital platforms. Today's host sponsor, the Bell Fund, where I serve on the board of directors, has helped producers to reach interactive audiences for almost 20 years. In that time, we've provided more than $165 million to 1,700 digital projects, specifically those projects associated with broadcast television. And it's this world of convergence where we expect to see the innovations in entertainment. And our Canadian winners have wowed television and digital audiences with virtual reality, with immersive games, and with live apps. But with convergence also comes many challenges. In my own business, Fan Trust, we help entertainment companies take a 360-degree approach to strategy, to storytelling, and to fans, from early development through international distribution. And this growth can be like turning a photograph into a hologram. There are so many creative and commercial considerations. And I'm sure it's many of those things that you have come to join our panel to hear today. And these experts, who are also experimentalists, are part of this 360-degree transformation. I'd like you to help me welcome Kalle Kaivola, Head of Business Development for Next Games. Next licensed The Walking Dead from its investor, AMC, for the game No Man's Land. Zib Ravinovich, Head of Digital and Interactive from Cachette International, the Emmy Award-winning producers and distributors. And finally, fellow Canadian David Cormacan, EVP Business Development and Production for Don Carmody Productions. This is the company behind the Netflix original sci-fi series called Between. Our panelists will each show us short video clips, and then we'll pick up our discussion after these sizzles. Thank you.
ערב טוב, ברוכים ערב טוב.
Great, thank you. And Ziv, over to you.
Yeah, actually, my clip was 1 second long. I hope you appreciated it. No, it was actually not played, which is going to make it slightly more challenging for me. But basically what I wanted to show you and talk about was a cross-media brand that is, we're talking about engaging our audiences, and our audiences are no longer using their TV screen as their first screen most of the time. They have, they have their mobiles, they have their iPads with them, and it's kind of raises the question of, what's the first screen then? I mean, where do they look first? Where are they coming from? And I think that as a broadcaster, for us to launch a cross-media brand basically says what we're saying is we want to create traction and engagement from every angle. So we want to bring the people from our app to our TV screen, from our TV screen to our app, and so forth. And this kind of product is exactly serving this need.
And is your reel ready to roll, or did
It's ready to roll?
Okay.
They just show them. Yeah.
Okay, let's go for it. Thank you.
After this exciting cross-media brand won over viewers and mobile users with record participation and engagement, now comes a new TV game.
Ready? Touch!
In a head-to-head match, two players will be presented with iconic images and videos from TV, sports, film, music, politics, and current events. But there's a twist. Something is wrong with these pictures. See it?
וזה נכון, עם כל הכבוד לדונלד טראמפ, הוא עדיין לא נשיא ארצות הברית.
All you have to do is touch.
מה לא בסדר?
Very topical. Thank you. And ideally, we've got the next reel queued up for between. Is that right? Dad!
It's been confirmed that the disease is accelerating in Pretty Lake as the death toll mounts to over 300.
There were no indicators that these people were sick until they were dead.
We've got to get out of here. Something is wrong. People are dying. The government isn't telling anyone.
We are putting Pretty Lake under full quarantine.
Initialize biohazard protocol.
No one under 22 years old has died.
What are we going to do?
Back up!
Nobody made you judge and jury.
That's great. I will use that as a segue to start with David. And I'm curious, when Netflix is just not enough for your active audience, what digital experiences will you provide to engage your fans?
Well, our show's a little bit unique in that we have a couple of broadcasters involved. Netflix is one on the international side. On the Canadian front, we have City TV, and that was their promo for our launch for season 1. Obviously, for a first-run series, we didn't have a lot of interactivity with our fans at all until we actually launched. Now we're heading into our second season, and we've got all sorts of amazing data and analytics from both the Canadians, and Netflix has given us some anecdotal, because they're, as everyone is sort of aware, they're fairly proprietary with their information, but they've been able to give us a lot of insight that has allowed us to tailor both the season and also our offering in between season with the fans. So we've been reaching out and engaged in a constant dialogue with them through our Facebook accounts, through Twitter, through Instagram. We have a Tumblr page, and they're a fairly active community. We've got a huge fan following in Brazil, France, as well as the UK, obviously in our home country of Canada, and the US as well. And so what we've done from first season into second is we realized that we killed off a character that was truly adored by people, and so we found a way to bring him back in our digital experience. So he's now going to be hosting what we're referring to as After Between, which is our sort of taking The Walking Dead as an inspiration. We've got more like The Talking Dead. We've got our After Between experience as well, where we're going to be bringing on cast members, special experts, people from the production team as well. And so we brought back this character, Pat, who is adored by our audience, and he's now going to be our Jeff Probst, if you will, sort of walking us through the play-by-play. Our ghost, the ghost of Pat is coming back, which is great because he's truly been amazing. We brought him out throughout the season as well, sort of doing on-location video feeds and interviews with the cast. And so we've gone and done a ton of additional content for this second season that'll be launched throughout the launch period, and then also afterwards we've got a bunch of featurettes and all that stuff, but then also special segments that we've done specific for this digital after show to drive for tune-in in the Canadian marketplace, but we'll also have a life afterwards. And so we've done that as one aspect. We've also we're having the year-round dialogue in between seasons. So again, going forward, hopefully through to a season 3, we'll be engaging with those audiences as well and bringing them into the experience. Again, trying to tap into what they want to see and hopefully allow that to inform our third season as well in terms of storyline.
And Callie, it seems that your focus is very much on original content IP from a franchise, in this case, The Walking Dead, possibly in the case of The Cowboy One, your own IP. What is the difference in your mind in building out a deal around IP versus a deal around marketing, say with your AMC discussions? So it's a licensing arrangement?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And I'm not sure I got the question.
I guess I was very curious, in your discussions with AMC, was it very obvious that you were going to be monetizing and creating your own IP, or did they see it as a game extension of their brand and more for marketing?
Well, it is an extension of the brand, but I think the important thing to recognize is it lives a life of its own, really. It's something also, from a fan perspective, you know, TV seasons have breaks, and this fills in kind of the gaps in the fan experience. So it's important that it stands out on its own, but at the same time, it needs to be true to the IP. So we work very closely to ensure that.
And did they give you any ideas about what they were striving for in terms of metrics with respect to marketing, or were you kind of on your own because you bought the license?
We work very closely with the marketing teams because our audience really, they want, you know, daily things happening in the game, weekly things happening in the game. We tie that into sort of the season structure as well, so we collaborate with the different teams at AMC to make sure that what happens in the show is reflected in the game. Like just yesterday, did anybody see the season finale for The Walking Dead? Is there anybody?
No spoilers.
No. Anyway, we're tying that very closely to the events in that, and that's something that, of course, that's one of the really tricky parts to pull off. First of all, you have to kind of translate how you make a TV show versus how you make a game. We work on different schedules, very different parameters for what is fun, and also timing. Timing is often like something that we really need to coordinate super closely. So on AMC's side, it's not only marketing, but they actually have game industry veterans on their team to kind of act as a translator, if you will, between the two very different mediums.
Now with Cachette, I'm interested because I feel that creative and entrepreneurial producers and networks really know how to do this shape-shifting from original programming to many platforms, including games and apps. You guys seem to be very much at the forefront of 360, and you look to be doing it all in-house. I'm curious about that, how you're structured, and then in terms of what works, like what works well for drama is very different from what works with reality. So how do you structure that in-house?
I think the best practice is in this case is simpler than you think, because the shift was basically an approach and perception. If I guess 2 years ago there was a show or there was an idea, and then the digital people were the last to be presented with the idea, and we were sent to go do something cool with it, make a game, make something that will accompany the IP. Now there's, on the creative meetings of a new show, a new idea, the digital and creative people are going to be there from the first meeting, and we put a lot of emphasis on the digital side, almost as, and even sometimes more than the actual show. It's part of the system, so it's very natural for us. It's something that is also unique to Cachette, but there's no choice. So if anyone is doing it any different way, then that's the way to do it. Just incorporate the digital people from day one. and then you have a 360 product.
Yeah, I have to totally agree with that. We work with a digital and a social media marketing team called Innovate by Day, and they worked on first season with us, and we brought them late to the table on that season because, again, it was an afterthought. Second season, they've been engaged right from the second. We wrapped the finale of season 1, and they've been ongoing ever since, and we've just been able to have this immersive experience where it's able to inform everything right off the hop as opposed to coming from behind on everything.
Yeah.
And in terms of your game, I'm very curious, how closely do the fans want it to stick to the show? I've worked on properties that are, say, based on books, where the show is very different and the fans get very incensed. What kind of feedback are you getting?
That's a really good question because I think like traditionally in the game industry, the first instinct is to kind of recreate the story of the original IP, and that just these days it's we're working so we're making mobile games. They're free to play games. This means that the game sessions can be anywhere from 2 minutes to like 30 minutes. That's not a particularly great way to present linear narrative, so to speak. So we have to, instead of like having having our story reflect the story in the TV show, we kind of branch off to our own separate little walking universe within the Walking Dead world, and then the way we tell narrative is more in line with like what we do with the game mechanics themselves. Like we try to translate the emotions from the show into things you'll experience in the game. You're going to see all the familiar locations, but you kind of make your own stories. It's your own cast of heroes.
I'm sure that's very well received because then they're experiencing it as they play. Ziv, I'm going to throw back to you to ask a bit about how you make decisions in this day and age when there are so many digital platforms, open platforms to choose from, everything from live, say Periscope, all the way through more tried and true Facebook, and then you have some of your own platforms, or it looks like embedded games for shows. So how do you come up with that menu of the perfect 360 experience?
I think it's very specific to the project, like you said before. A drama can get the same treatment that a studio show gets. I mean, it's different, but given enough time to think about it and working closely, I mean, getting the script, if it's a drama show, getting the scripts, go over them, see where you can add to the value, see where you can tap in while those scripts are still maybe changeable. So I have a good example of an activity that we did in a drama where you could actually, through an app on your phone, hack into the phones of the characters in the show, and then you could see if, by doing that as a fan, you were able to see their correspondences on WhatsApp and their Facebook pages and their emails, and we corresponded with the makers of the show to make sure that they leave those kind of Easter eggs where you can find only in the app. And it's amazing to see how a scripted drama is changing to accommodate digital activities, and it's great to see the engagement. Also, it's.
I mean, some of this success really depends on the talent. It really depends on the cast and their social following. And I know David Between has a Twitter superstar. I believe her following is over 6 million Twitter followers. How are you getting her involved to evangelize and grow your show fan base?
Yeah, so Jeanette McCurdy is the star of our show, which many of you might be familiar with her from Sam and Cat and iCarly, and she's had a phenomenal fan base grow out of that. So she has 15 million plus Facebook fans, 6 million Twitter, 4 point something on Instagram right now, and growing on other platforms. And so when Jeanette was involved. She has also been very involved in the promotion of the show, not just being on camera, but also, sending out specific messages. We would also opt to not necessarily do press releases through the traditional medium. We would actually have her tweet out the details. And then it sort of takes off from there, and all of the news outlets cover it based on her feed, or you tip off the news outlets, watch her feed at around this hour. So we've been doing stuff like that strategically to get her involved, but also having her shout out to other cast members to try and keep that conversation going between them. On first season, we were pretty guarded about what we would allow the cast to do. Second season, we just sort of let loose and said, whatever you want, just no spoilers. So if you have a new costume this season, or if someone dies, try to keep that hidden. But otherwise, hashtag set life has been pretty popular for us, and it does really well, and fans, they love that stuff. They eat it up. And Jeanette has just been such a powerhouse. She gets upset when something isn't liked, more than 100,000 times, because and I'm happy to get 20, But every time she mentions me, I get a bump of 50 new followers. It's all right. So yeah, she's a huge tour de force on that side of things, and so we really try to be, really targeted with what we have her do, so that she's not just blasting out between, but it's
still
really
going to be mentioned after this.
Yeah.
You gave her a grade.
Exactly.
Because there's a spam factor too that you don't want to overexploit. And she needs to be authentic for her fans as well.
Absolutely.
And maybe she's doing other things too. So it's all got to
Yeah,
work
she's
together.
got a brand, and we have to make sure that our brand lines up with hers. And it's a pretty successful pairing so far, and hopefully it goes on for many more seasons to come.
But it's so interesting from, say, the old Hollywood studio model, where it was command control, and the star was the, sort of hovering under a contract. And now these stars, my gosh, they command the world stage, and so they have a lot of clout. And it even impacts things like casting, or maybe voices in video games. I'm very curious, how do you work with talent, if at all?
So yeah, we have so Norman Reedus provided his likeness for the character of Daryl Dixon. He's first of all, he's a super cool guy, so he's loved the project. So he's got a fantastic following as well, and often just talks about the game as well. But also importantly, in the game, he's kind of a tutorial character. He brings you up to speed as you have an initial group of 3 survivors. He shows you the ropes, and that's worked really well. So that's kind of the logical tie-in into the show, and that's where we branch off into our own little game worlds.
I see. Okay. Now, I wanted to move on a bit to formats, because we've talked about multi-platform formats, but also there's formats. And Cachette, I think of as a format enterprise.
Yeah.
And how do you do that with a format that's also a 360? How do you customize? What kind of restrictions do you put on your partners or obligations?
I think that the way we deal with formats now is, when we did Rising Star, that was, I think that was the first time where the app was a part of the show. You couldn't vote if you don't have the app. There was no SMSs, and there was no website votes. You had to have the app. And that allowed us to, not only that allowed us, to give our partners a lot more, another screen to brand. So the app and the commercial slots were packaged together. So we kind of sell and see it as an advantage rather than restriction. It's another tool for everyone to use and brand.
Mm-hmm. And so you were doing in-app brand placements for a fee?
And not everywhere, but sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, and is that a model you think will work for some of your other formats?
I'm sure it will, because same as us, also the advertisers are also looking for new ways to reach they're facing the same challenges. Mm-hmm. We want to be everywhere, they want to be everywhere, and if we can give them the tools to be wherever we are, I think it's a great thing for them. It's almost a no-brainer for them too.
I mean, in simplistic terms, I would sort of divide our stage between here's someone who has licensed the IP. He's able to do whatever he wants. Are you revenue sharing on that, or do you get 100% of the revenue?
Yeah, I can't go into details on that.
But you basically, it's yours to exploit?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it makes no sense for us to sort of exploit it on our own. Like we work very closely on that front, but we are the ones driving. We're the ones publishing the game, so we have publisher status on that.
Okay. And then with Cachette, it's more of a traditional broadcast model, and yet you're getting the revenue within the digital piece. Is that
it also
correct?
based on the on the specific project that we're doing. It varies. We're open, of course, to everything that makes sense. And being digital meaning being very versatile, it's very easy to change things, play with them, experiment, and see what's the best fit. And this is what we do, and eventually this is what we sell. So we sell not only the first digital exploitation, but also the experience of what worked, what didn't work. I think it puts us in a very good place of, you're not just buying the car, you're also buying a very, like a very good driver who drove this car, failed, succeed, so.
Because you're such an expert, or your company has this equity around 360. And then, David, with Between, would you see these almost more as marketing extensions or cost centers, or are you also monetizing them?
I mean, obviously, we're not monetizing off Twitter feeds and stuff like that, but we do. The way we sort of look at all of this is it's brand extension, it's audience affinity, it's building that audience so that they want to keep coming back into that world. And eventually, if we get enough traction, we've looked at games, we've looked at other avenues that we feel if we go a third season, we will definitely go down that road because we feel we'll have that traction at that point to monetize off these different avenues. But that for us isn't really the end goal right now. It's building this audience and this ecosystem that we can use to hopefully exploit all these other avenues that we've been talking about.
And Netflix itself has a great marketing team. Are you also working hand in glove with Netflix?
Yeah, they're a beast. They've got a wicked reach across the globe, which is also something that we've been trying to wrap our heads around how to best take advantage of a truly global release. When they flick the switch, you're on in 120 countries now, which is fantastic. So we have 80 million plus eyeballs that are potential fans, potential purchasers of any merchandise or anything that we want to sort of create and offer under this brand offering, right? So we're trying to, again, build that affinity, that engagement, so we can be able to offer them something that's truly of value beyond just the traditional viewing experience.
Thank you. So just before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you all what you think is next for the fans in terms of your own work and 360-degree content. What are the fans looking for next?
Well, within the game space, the recent trend is just building a lot more content on a day-to-day basis, activating fans of the game to come back. Like that's been really big.
I think that the name of the session, Feed the Passion. I mean, the viewers are. I mean, our viewers are already there. They use multiple screens. It's our job to bring them the content to wherever they go and however they choose to consume it. And I think that's that's what we do.
Are they giving you direct feedback, direct requests, live? Are they periscoping you, demanding certain
Being digital,
things?
first of all, we can see the numbers, obviously.
Yeah.
As things are running, we can see immediately what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. That's first. Second of all, they can comment, like touch the TV format that I showed you, the HEF.
The Trump.
We got so many viewers saying we want more pictures, put more pictures in, or this one is hard and this one is it's crazy. You get immediate feedback, and it's something that television is not used to get. So we're getting more precise as we go.
And is that affecting your production cycle? Like, so you can respond to
Yes,
that from, say,
definitely.
week to week or show to show?
Definitely. And we do.
That's great.
Yeah.
I hope you're seeing that result
Yeah.
work for you.
Yeah.
And how about you with Between? I know those are longer cycles when you're going over the top.
Yeah, I think people are getting used to, on TV as a whole, they're getting used to the immersive experience, all these different brand extensions and offerings to keep you inside the world. I think what they're wanting to and where we're going to be going next is more of a responsive world where you're going to see a little bit more choose your own TV. And we're certainly trying to do that ourselves with storylines, trying to, in the off season, glean as much as we can. Favorite characters, favorite storylines, what did you like, what were the surprises, and to try and incorporate that as we went forward. So I think there's going to be a very exciting season 2 for fans of the show, existing and new. And again, we're just like mining all of that data from them to build season 3 already right now.
That is a great way to wrap up with your choose your own TV adventure. I like that very much. And so I would love to invite you all to meet with our experts outside these doors. And before I wrap, on behalf of the Bell Fund and MIPTV, I would like to thank our panel and our audience, our fans. Thank you so very much for spending your time with us today. And for more, if you'd like to go downstairs to the Grand Auditorium, there are the digital fronts playing out right now, as well as the opening cocktail later tonight, a wonderful party for all of us in the Martinez. Hope to see you there. Thank you.